The three crazy ancient laws that actually existed. Did you know that some of the strangest laws in history were once considered completely normal? Imagine living in a world where eating a mouse could make you a criminal, where losing your virginity before marriage was punishable by death, or where your job title could determine whether you lived or died. These weren't myths or folktales. They were real laws enforced by real kings in civilizations that shaped our world. Let us step back thousands of years and uncover the bizarre logic behind the rules that once governed people's lives. Our first stop takes us to ancient Greece, to a city called Locri in southern Italy. This was around the 7th century BCE. The Locrians were known for their strict sense of order, but they had one law that stunned even other Greeks. If anyone wanted to propose a new law, they had to do it with a rope tied around their neck. Yes, literally. Picture this. The city's council sits in a marble hall. Citizens gather in silence. A man steps forward. Around his neck is a noose. One end is tied to a wooden beam above. He takes a deep breath and begins to speak. The rule was simple. If his new law was accepted, the rope was removed. If the council rejected it, the man was immediately strangled. No second chances. Why would a city do that? The logic was twisted but clear. Locri's lawmakers believed that only someone absolutely certain of the law's value would risk their life for it. They wanted to make sure that only serious proposals ever reached the council floor. It sounds extreme, but to them, it was a way to protect stability. Changing laws meant changing lives. So every reformer had to prove their conviction, literally with their neck. Let's float over to another ancient civilization where the rules were even stranger, ancient Egypt. In this land of golden temples and eternal pharaohs, every aspect of life was controlled by a concept called mat. It meant truth, balance, and order. But under this idea, Egypt developed some of the most curious laws ever recorded. One of them banned people from eating certain fish, not because of health or scarcity, but because the gods supposedly hated them. The Nile catfish, for example, was believed to have eaten part of the god Osiris's body after he was murdered by his jealous brother, Set. As punishment, the priests declared the fish unclean forever. Anyone caught eating it could face religious penalties or public humiliation. Imagine being a farmer after a long day of work. You catch a fish from the river, cook it, and share it with your family. But if someone reports you, you're taken to the temple court for defiling divine purity. You'd swear you didn't mean disrespect, yet you'd still be marked impure. These laws weren't just about obedience. They were about cosmic harmony. Egyptians believed that if people disobeyed sacred rules, the world itself could fall into chaos floods, plagues, even the sun refusing to rise. So following every law, no matter how small or strange, became an act of survival. Now let's cross the desert and travel to ancient Babylon, one of the world's first great cities around 1750 BCE here. King Hammurabi created one of the earliest and most detailed legal codes in human history, the Code of Hammurabi. It was carved on a tall stone pillar, standing in the city square for everyone to see. And among its 282 laws were some that seem absurd today. For instance, if a builder constructed a house and it collapsed, killing the owner, the builder would be put to death. If it killed the owner's son, the builder's son would be executed instead. It wasn't about fairness. It was about symbolic justice. An eye for an eye, literally carved in stone. But there's another law in Hammurabi's code that is even more surprising. If a woman's husband accused her of adultery but had no proof, she had to prove her innocence by throwing herself into a river. If she survived, she was innocent. If she drowned, well, the gods had spoken. To modern eyes, it's horrifying. But to the Babylonians, divine judgment was the ultimate truth. The river wasn't just water, it was a living force of justice. Let's pause for a moment. Think about what these laws reveal. They weren't random acts of cruelty. They reflected deep beliefs about life, gods, and destiny. To challenge them meant to challenge the universe itself. Now let's drift further east to ancient China, under the Qin dynasty, around 220 BCE. This was the time of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, the man who built the Great Wall and the Terracotta Army. But behind that greatness was a harsh legal system called legalism. Under legalism, laws were everything, and mercy was weakness. The empire believed that strict order was the only way to maintain peace. One crazy example was the law of collective punishment. If one man committed a crime, his entire family and sometimes even his neighbors could be punished. A thief's parents could be enslaved. A soldier who disobeyed an order could have his comrades executed beside him. It sounds cruel, but it worked at least for a while. Fear kept society under control. People reported each other constantly. No one dared step out of line. But that same fear slowly destroyed trust, and the dynasty that unified China soon collapsed under its own weight. Let's float to another world, entirely medieval Europe. Here, religion and law merged so deeply that breaking one often meant breaking both. The church had the power to excommunicate people for minor offenses, like missing confession or refusing to fast. But one of the strangest laws came from 14th century France, where animals could be tried in court. Yes, animals. There are real records of pigs, cows, and even roosters being brought before judges, accused of crimes. In one case, a pig was put on trial for killing a child. It had a defense lawyer, a public hearing, and even a sentence execution by hanging. Why? Because medieval thinkers believed sin could exist in all living creatures. The trial wasn't just about justice. It was a ritual, a way to restore divine order. Today it sounds absurd. But in a world where faith shaped every breath, even animals had to answer for their actions. From ropes around lawmakers' necks in Greece to fish forbidden by the gods in Egypt, from builders punished for collapsed houses to pigs tried in court, these ancient laws show us something profound. Humanity has always searched for order in chaos. And in that search, we often cross the line between reason and ritual. Each rule, no matter how strange, carried a hidden belief of fear that without laws, life itself might crumble. In the next part, we all travel deeper into forgotten lands and uncover 3 more insane ancient laws that make even these seem almost reasonable. Laws that punished laughter, banned colors, and even controlled the way people could dream. Laws that banned colors, laughter, and dreams. Did you know that in some ancient kingdoms, even laughter could be illegal? It sounds impossible, yet history is filled with laws that tried to control not just what people did, but what they felt. As we move deeper into the world of forgotten rules, we'll see how fear and faith shaped laws so strange that they almost feel unreal today. Let's begin in ancient Sparta. Sparta was not just a city, it was a military machine. Every Spartan child was raised for war. Strength was sacred, weakness was shameful, and individuality was dangerous. To keep their soldiers focused, the Spartans created laws that banned luxury, softness, and even laughter in public. Imagine walking through the stone streets of Sparta. Rows of soldiers march past, silent and disciplined. No smiles, no laughter. Even young boys are taught to speak briefly, to show no emotion. Their teachers beat them if they cry. The Spartan lawmakers believed joy was a distraction from duty. They called it eutropilia, a weakness of the soul. They feared that if people laughed too easily, they might forget the seriousness of war. Meals were plain black broth and barley bread. Homes were simple, without decoration. Gold and silver were banned. Laughter, color, softness, these were signs of decay. A true Spartan was supposed to live like a shadow, existing only for the state. This law of emotional control built one of the toughest armies the world has ever seen. But it also drained the human spirit from everyday life. The cost of perfection was silence. Now let's drift east to ancient Persia, where another curious law took control of something far more personal: clothing. During the Achaemenid Empire, which stretched from Egypt to India, colors were symbols of rank. Ordinary citizens could not wear royal shades. The color purple, in particular, was reserved for the king and his closest nobles. Wearing it without permission was an act of treason. The logic was simple. Purple dye was made from a rare sea snail called Asterisk murex. And it took thousands of snails to produce a single ounce. It was worth more than gold. So when someone wore purple, they were claiming power that belonged only to the throne. There are old Persian records describing guards tearing garments off travelers who wore forbidden colors. In some cases, punishment went beyond humiliation. People could lose their property or even their lives. So imagine being a craftsman, proud of your skill, wearing a robe with a few purple threads woven in. A soldier spots you. You're seized, dragged before a judge, and accused of mocking the king. The color on your clothes becomes your crime. This idea spread through Rome, Byzantium, and medieval Europe. For centuries, Rulers everywhere controlled colors through sumptuary laws, dictating who could wear silk, gold, or certain dyes. Even beauty became a privilege of power. Let's float now to a land of philosophy and poetry, ancient China during the Han Dynasty. Here, emperors ruled with an iron hand disguised as cosmic order. Their laws touched not only behavior, but also the unseen world of dreams. The law of correct sleep was part of an old belief that dreams could be messages from heaven. If someone dreamed of rebellion or spoke of a bad omen, they could be arrested. Officials believed such dreams revealed a restless or disloyal heart. Historical records mention a scholar named Fu Yu. He once dreamed that he was standing beside the emperor, offering advice. When he told others about it, someone reported him, accusing him of ambition. He was punished for dreaming of power. To control dreams was to control thought. People learned to stay quiet about what they saw in sleep. Dream interpreters became powerful figures, working for the emperor, deciding which dreams were safe and which were treason. It seems absurd now, but in ancient China, everything connected to balance, the harmony between earth, heaven, and man. If a dream disturbed that balance, the law demanded action. Let's pause again. What connects these three strange laws, the ban on laughter, the control of colors, the punishment for dreams? They all reveal how deeply ancient societies feared disorder. They wanted predictability. They wanted control. And to achieve it, they were willing to shape even the human soul through law. Now let's sail west again to ancient Rome. Rome is famous for its advanced legal system, the root of modern law. But buried in that legacy are some bizarre and forgotten rules. One of them came from the early republic, known as the Lex Appia. This law was passed during wartime when resources were scarce. It banned women from owning too much gold, wearing brightly colored clothing, or riding in carriages inside the city. The government claimed it was about saving money for the state, but everyone knew it was about control. Roman women protested. They gathered in the streets, blocking senators on their way to the forum, demanding their rights back. Eventually, the law was repealed. It was one of the earliest recorded women's protests in history. Through that struggle, Rome learned the timeless truth laws that go too far rarely survive for long. Let's drift north now to medieval England, where one of the strangest laws ever written was passed in the 14th century. It was called the Statute of Laborers. After the Black Death wiped out half of Europe's population, there weren't enough workers left to farm or build. Wages rose, and peasants began demanding more money for their work. The rich panicked. To stop this sudden rise in power among commoners, the king made it illegal to ask for higher pay. Imagine that by law, you had to work for the same low wage as before the plague, even though labor was scarce. If you refused, you could be thrown in jail. It didn't work, of course. People fled to other towns, hid in forests, or joined rebellions. But the law shows how terrified the elite were of losing control. From the laughter bans of Sparta to the color codes of Persia, from the dream laws of China to the wage limits of England, each of these strange rules tells a story of power and fear. Leaders weren't just trying to keep order. They were trying to keep themselves in power, no matter how absurd the logic became. Let's float toward one last era before we end this journey. The Renaissance, a time of art, invention, and more strange laws. In Florence during the 5th-10th century, the city's ruling family, the Medici, passed a moral code known as the Sumptuary Ordinances. It banned short skirts, low necklines, and even excessive jewelry. The goal was to maintain modesty, but it quickly turned into a form of social control. Inspectors known as dress wardens patrolled the streets, checking women's clothing. If they found someone wearing too much silk or gold, they issued fines. In some cases, tailors were punished too for selling forbidden luxury. Ironically, the same city that produced masterpieces of art also punished people for looking too elegant. It was a strange dance between beauty and guilt. As centuries passed, many of these bizarre laws faded, replaced by reason and reform. Yet some echoes remain today in dress codes, public decency laws, or social rules that still tell us how to act and what to wear. The ancient world may be gone, but the instinct to control human behavior through law remains alive in every society. In the next and final part, we'll travel to civilizations even older: Sumer, early India, and the Maya world to uncover the final 3 laws that shaped humanity's strangest sense of justice. laws that blurred the line between punishment and superstition, where even the gods were expected to obey. When justice belonged to the god, did you know that some of the world's as oldest laws weren't written for people at all, but for gods? In the earliest civilizations, rulers believed that justice itself came from the divine. Breaking a law wasn't just a crime, it was a cosmic offense. And sometimes, even the gods were expected to follow the rules. Let's begin in ancient Sumer, around 4,000 years ago, the birthplace of writing, kings, and law itself. The Sumerians were the first people to carve rules into stone. Their code of justice was simple but sacred. One of their strangest laws dealt with the idea of divine punishment. If a temple priest accused someone of lying under oath, that person would be thrown into the river. The river, believed to be the god Enki's domain, was the ultimate judge. If the accused drowned, it meant the gods found them guilty. If they survived, they were innocent, and their accuser could be executed for false testimony. This was one of humanity's earliest trial-by-ordeal systems. Justice was left to nature, or what they believed was divine will. The river became the courtroom, and the gods were the jury. Now picture this. Two men stand on a riverbank. One accuses the other of stealing grain. The crowd gathers. The accused ties a stone to his waist and walks into the water. Silence falls. If he floats back alive, the gods have spoken. It's brutal, but it shows how faith and law were inseparable. Sumerians didn't trust men to judge fairly. They trusted the universe. Let's float across time and land in ancient India, where another set of sacred laws took control, the laws of Manu, written around 2,000 years ago. These laws shaped Hindu society for centuries. But among the many rules about purity, caste, and duty, some stand out for their sheer strangeness. One said that if a man of lower caste overheard the sacred verses of the Vedas, molten lead should be poured into his ears. It sounds horrifying, but to the lawmakers of the time, it was about protecting spiritual secrets. The Vedas were considered the voice of the divine. Only the priestly class, the Brahmins, were allowed to recite or hear them. The idea wasn't just about keeping power, it was about keeping cosmic order. To them, knowledge itself was dangerous when placed in the wrong hands. This ancient system of hierarchy defined life from birth to death. Every meal, every marriage, every ritual followed the same invisible law of purity and order. But behind that structure was fear, the fear that one mistake could disturb the balance between heaven and earth. Let's float west again to ancient Israel. Here, law was divine command. The Torah didn't just tell people what to do, it told them how to live. But one of the most unusual laws from that time involved agriculture. The Israelites practiced something called Shemitah*, the Sabbath year. Every seventh year, farmers had to stop planting crops entirely. The land was to rest. Whatever grew on its own was left for the poor and the wild animals. It wasn't optional. It was law. Disobeying it was seen as defiance against God's rhythm. The idea was simple but revolutionary. Even the earth had rights. Even the soil needed peace. Imagine an entire nation stopping its work every 7 years. Fields silent, tools set aside, farmers trusting that faith would feed them. It was both practical and symbolic, an ancient environmental law born thousands of years before modern conservation. Let's move now to the Maya civilization in Central America. Around 700 CE, the Maya were brilliant astronomers, engineers, and mathematicians, but their laws were bound to ritual and fate. One law stands out. When a person was convicted of a crime, the punishment could depend on the phase of the moon. During certain lunar cycles, executions were forbidden. The Maya believed that killing during a dark moon angered the gods and cursed the village. So trials and punishments were timed according to celestial calendars. Imagine standing before a priest judge beneath a pyramid. He looks at the sky before announcing your fate. The moon decides whether you live or die. This shows how deeply the Maya believed that law and nature were one. Their justice was cosmic, written not in books but in the stars. Now let's travel to ancient Japan during the Heian period, around the 9th century. Here, the imperial court created a law unlike any other one that punished bad spirits instead of people. If an epidemic or disaster struck, the emperor's priests would hold a ceremony called *Goryu-e. They believed angry ghosts were the cause. So instead of punishing citizens, they punished spirits through elaborate rituals and offerings. They would chant, burn incense, and even issue written decrees ordering the ghosts to leave. These were real legal documents, stamped with imperial seals, addressed to the world of the dead. To the Japanese of that era, it wasn't superstition, it was government policy. Justice extended beyond the human realm. Let's pause for a moment and look back at where we've been. We started with lawmakers who risked their lives in Greece. We crossed through Egypt's sacred taboos, Babylon's harsh fairness, and China's dream police. We passed through Sparta's silence, Persia's color codes, and the medieval obsession with morality. And now we've reached the dawn of civilization itself, where law was not merely a rule, but a reflection of the cosmos. Across every era, one pattern remains. The stranger the law, the deeper the belief behind it. Whether it was a rope around the neck or molten lead in the ear, these rules were humanity's way of keeping order in a world that seemed beyond control. Even now, thousands of years later, the echoes of these ancient laws remain. We no longer throw people into rivers to test truth, but we still trust in systems we can't always explain. We still believe in order, justice, and balance ideas born from the same fears and hopes that shaped the world's first codes. So the next time you hear someone say, "That's the law," remember, law is never just law. It's history, belief, fear, and faith woven together. From rivers to stars, from kings to commoners, from ancient Sumer to the modern courtrooms of today, humanity has always lived under the same truth. We make laws to control chaos, but sometimes it's the laws themselves that remind us how strange and fragile our idea of order really is.